This is New York Nightly News with Chuck Scarborough, live on New York Nonstop.
Our next guest is a veteran of the Coast Guard, the TSA, and the Department of Homeland Security, Admiral James Loy. The co-chair of ProtectingAmerica.org says New York, especially Long Island, is at risk from a deadly disaster that could cause billions of dollars in damage and leave thousands of people homeless or worse. The Admiral joins us right now to tell us much more about this. Welcome aboard, Admiral.
Thank you, Chuck. Nice to have you
here. We're talking about the great hurricane of 1938. How devastating would that hurricane be today?
Well, it would be probably a $100 billion event. Maybe $35 billion of those dollars would be covered inside the insurance envelope, and the other $65 billion would be dealt with by the American taxpayer in the bailout process we've gotten, unfortunately, to be too good at.
Oh, I said we have. I mean, that is the template right now. There are terrible disasters, and the taxpayers ride to the rescue after every one of them. How do we change that?
Well, I think we can do something dramatically different and dramatically more effective. Our goal ought to be availability and affordability of insurance that is actuarially sound and makes sense to both the consumer and to the people that provide those services. But at the other end of the day, the right construct for not only New York but other states around the nation, probably as many as 15 or 20, I don't think all, but probably as many as 15 or 20, is to create a catastrophe fund in advance, pre-funded with actuarially sound premiums, and allow that to grow over time, just like your 401k or my IRA, with a view towards having those dollars available when these catastrophes strike.
That's kind of a tall order in these tough economic times. Most states are underwater right now, their own budgets, and strapped. Where do you get the revenues for this catastrophic fund? Well,
the revenues come from, as I say, actuarially sound premiums. So it's not appropriated dollars at the state level. It's not appropriated dollars at the federal level. It's a two-trigger system that we have designed into the Taxpayer Protection Act for 2011 that we're looking for great support from not only the New York delegation but all around the country. The simple notion is those actuarially sound premiums are allowed to accrue over time at tax-advantaged rates, and as I say, therefore will be available to help with the funding construct associated with these terrible events.
Should the government simply say, look, if you're going to build in a floodplain, you're going to build in a coastal area that's vulnerable to hurricanes, if you're going to build in Tornado Alley, you're on your own. You and your insurance companies are on your own. We will not come repair your home time and time again. Should they say that?
I think something pretty close to that is a very real notion. Part of our campaign is not only to deal with the financial construct, which I just mentioned a couple of moments ago, but also with mitigation strategies, better building codes, better land use policies that afford the chance for these events not to recur in the very same places that they have occurred so many times before. In addition to that, I think there's much better public education programs that we can be generating and direct support for first responders that can be part of this overall campaign to better prepare and protect America from these events.
How close are you to getting all of these things in place?
Well, we've been working for 4 or 5 years now, Chuck, and the legislation in Washington has gotten better and better over those 4 or 5 years. In the 210th Congress, we got a bill out of the House. In the 211th Congress, we got a bill out of the Financial Services Committee onto the floor of the House, and we're right posed today for both a bill being dropped on both the Senate side and on the House side, and we hope this is the year that we can pull this off.
And just to bring this back home, how likely are we to get hit in the New York area by a hurricane of the same magnitude that hit us in 1938?
Well, I think it's a very difficult prediction process, but the reality is it's not a matter of if, it's only a matter of when. And a storm of that magnitude, the folks in New Orleans were not expecting Katrina. The folks in Japan were not expecting their tsunami. The folks in the Midwest were not expecting the flooding and the tornadoes that came through this year. Those kind of eventualities are going to take place, and they will again take place in the New York, New England area.
All right, Admiral Loy, thanks for coming in.
Thank you, sir.